Alright, how's it going? Today I'm going to be editing some photos. I went downtown Indianapolis and I took some street pictures today. So I'm going to go ahead and edit those for you. I got the screen recording on my computer. So I'm going to walk through my editing style and how I edit photos from a day to day. So first let's go ahead and open up this folder that I have with all the pictures in it. Then I'll drag those over to Lightroom. And to edit all my pictures I use Lightroom Classic. I use the most recent version, so that's what I use to edit all the photos. So basically the first step that I do when I'm editing photos is I just go through all of them and pick out the best ones. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Alright, so I imported all the photos and then I'm going to create a new collection. I'm going to call it Indianapolis Midday Street. I'm going to create the collection and then I'll just import all the photos into that collection. I ended up with about 21 photos that I'm going to edit, and then I'll post however many I want to on Instagram. So let's go ahead and I'll just start with this one first since it's a pretty basic city photo. First, what I usually do is I'll start out with the highlights and the shadows and the exposure and all that kind of stuff. So let's drop the highlights to try and get a little bit of that sky up here back. And then take out some of the shadows to brighten it up, and then I'll add some contrast later. And then when you press Alt or Option if you're on a Mac, you can slide the white slider, and then it will, when it starts to show these colors right here, that means it's blown out. So I just try and go to a little bit so I can see a little bit of color so it's not blown out, but you're getting a couple white pixels. And then same thing with the blacks. So I got a couple black pixels, and then I usually just click auto temperature because that usually does a pretty good job. Then I'll move on to the tone curve, and I usually just start with an S curve, basic S curve, point here and a point here, and then I'll drop down the shadows and then boost the highlights. So it does give it a lot of contrast, and then I might fade out the blacks a little bit. Kind of crush the blacks and fade them. So before and after the tone curve. Since that's a little bit too much contrast, I like to come back here and just turn it down a little bit to whatever looks good. So after that, I'll go into the HSL tab. So let's play with the colors a little bit, see what looks good. I usually just give it a little bit of a teal and orange look, with just moving all of these colors up here to the orange side, and then these kind of go to the blue side or the teal side. And that's kind of how I usually do it. I'm actually going to skip color grading for now, but for detail I'll just press Alt or Option if you're on a Mac, and then change this masking slider. If you slide it all the way down, then it will show the areas that are going to be sharpened. So I do only want the edges of the buildings and the roads to be sharpened, so I'm going to change it to about 90. And then I'll put the sharpness up to around 80. If you see on the very edge of the buildings, it definitely does make the edges sharper. I did shoot all of this on my Sony a7 III with the Tamron 28 to 75 f2.8, so that is a pretty sharp lens. But just to get the edges all sharpened up, I did sharpen them a little bit. And then transform, I usually don't touch the transform because I usually straighten it with the crop tool. So I should do that right now, and then I'll crop it so that the building is straight. That looks pretty straight to me. And then calibration is kind of where the magic happens a lot of the time, because you can change these in just basic teal and orange, or I like to change the greens because it just kind of makes deeper, darker reds. And then I might desaturate a little bit. There's that. And here is before, just a rough edit. There's a before and the after. And I'm actually right now I'm going to go in and take these out, these cones, because they're kind of polluting the image a little bit. There we go, there's that. And then one over here. There's that. And then one more over here, I'm pretty sure. This one might be a little harder for Lightroom to fix. Oh, it looks like I did a pretty good job actually. There's a before and after right now. What I will do is kind of do a gradient filter up here because the sky is bright, and this is a kind of a flat image, so I do want to emphasize that with the sky. So what I'll do is I'll turn the exposure down to kind of make it look like there's some storm clouds up there. And I'll turn the dehaze slider up just a tad, maybe exposure up a little bit more, and fade that out. I'm going to change the temperature and see what this will do to it. Make it a little bit cooler, and then saturation down a little bit to give it a cool sky look. And then, so there's the sky. And I can see, so the calibration definitely did mess with the image quite a bit. So I'm going to go here and just turn it down a little bit. There we go. And then let's see if we can add some color grading, some split toning a little bit. So I'll put around 220 on the hue for the shadows to get a teal look, and then saturation up. So I'll do it at about 10 maybe. Just add some blue into the shadows, and then in the highlights, so just add some blue into the highlights. So from there, I'm going to crop the image to be 8x10 or 4x5. And then I'll keep the sky in there, and then I'll add another graduated filter to the bottom, kind of angle it with the road or the sidewalk a little bit, and drop the exposure just to kind of bring your eyes towards the center of the image. And then I'm going to add a radial filter to the center, and then kind of brighten up the city a little bit. I'm going to go and invert that. So that looks pretty good to me. There's the before and the after of that image. That looks pretty good. Alright, that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. I just kind of wanted to show you how I edit my photos and the steps I go through to edit my photos. If you want to see the rest of the photos, go ahead and go to my Instagram. It'll be linked in the description. You can go ahead and like and follow. While you're at it, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe, and there'll be more videos in the future. I'll see you guys next time.